All right, hello and welcome everybody to race number 6 here in Miami. And as you guys can already tell, it's going to be a sprint weekend since Baku was moved between Monza and Singapore later on in the season. We're going to be spending a lot of our time in practice 1 trying to get our setup as best as possible for this sprint race, because qualifying is split between the practice sessions, and we won't be able to swap our setup into practice 2. So, yeah. We did get the team name changer to work, as, let's see, go to standings here. Mercedes, Ineos, Red Bull, Ferrari, Quadrant, McLaren, Aston Martin. It was set up as Aston Martin Honda, but we, can get it work as best as you can. So, Alpine, Sauber, Alfa Romeo Haas, Gulf Williams, and Connorsport. Connorsport still to score any points, as Nico Hulkenberg, Aiden Jackson, Joe Granu, Logan Sargent, and Callie Mayer are still yet to score any points. Mick Schumacher with 3, myself with 26, Esteban Ocon with 1, Yuki Tsunoda, Valtteri Bottas, and we have a rivalry with Sergio Perez, if you guys don't remember. But we could be doing better, especially with how we're going so far in the season. But we're looking forward to this race in Miami, this home race for myself and Logan Sargent. And we have another helmet to show off here in qualifying. You guys will see shortly. And yeah, that's about it. So let's get right into it. All right, so here we are qualifying for Miami, as we have our 2 time frames. We have the hards for 132, mediums 131.9. So that was a live screenshot from the hards. As we're coming around the corner. And the weather's not too bad for Staffen, setting a 132 back in P9. We're currently P11 here in Q1. A little bit of a wheel spin there, coming around that left-hander. And our first run is a 130.699. So moving on to the final run of Q1. Currently sitting P9 is Norris and Bottas close behind. And we're just around 1/10. Just about 2/10, just under 2/10 improvement into Q2. Provisional P7 as of right now. Coming around to finish out the first run of Q2. Currently P12 on the time frame because we haven't set a time. We're doing a lot better through this S curve, and 130.8. So we're around pretty much the same time frame on the softs, and we had a banger of a lap with 6-7 tenths improvement here. And yeah, 7 tenths improvement coming around. Could have done that left-hander a little bit better. And we jumped from P11 with 6 tenths gain to provisional P5 into Q3. Unfortunately, our teammate didn't make it. So we're coming around the end of our first lap here. 8 minutes to go in Q3. And Leclerc setting a 132. Snap of wheel spin there again, trying to put the power down, but 130.7, so only good enough for P9 as of right now. And we're coming around for the final run of Q3. Currently P10, 130.1 from Bottas for P6. And that's going to be about a half a second ahead, and just under 0.7. Good enough for P6.
With qualifying finished, it's time to remind ourselves once again of our top 3. Verstappen, Perez, and George Russell. Well, that wraps up qualifying, but don't worry, we'll be back tomorrow as we head into the Grand Prix.
All right, so there is our pretty tough qualifying P5, P6, pretty much where we're sitting so far this season. Not too much to brag about, as we're splitting the Alpines of Pierre Gasly and Valtteri Bottas, our Alpine rival from last season, the Pierre Gasly. And Carlos Sainz, George Russell in the second row, and Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez locking out the front row for the sprint race. And Lando Norris, top 10, with the Quadrant McLaren, the other McLaren of Oscar Piastri not making it. And yeah, so we have a lot to look forward to. Try to stay within the top 10, possibly top 6 for the sprint race, as we're here in Miami. So let's get right to the fun of the sprint race.
Welcome to today's sprint. This is shaping up to be another fantastic weekend. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting sprint. Max Verstappen put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he'll start from pole position. Sergio Perez lines up alongside. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Russell, Sainz, Gasly, Johnson, Bottas, Hamilton, Leclerc, Norris, Oscar Piastri, Tsunoda, Joe, Jackson, Ocon, Mayer, Mick Schumacher, Magnussen, Hulkenberg, and Logan Sargent. Which of these drivers will get pole position today? We'll soon find out.
All right, so here we are in Miami. Not only Miami, but it's just a sprint race weekend. So I had a feeling that they were going to have us choose the mediums, try to save a soft set of tires for the main race. So 7-lap race on the mediums in the sun. And looks like there's a little bit of sunset going on too. So let's get right to it.
Here we go then. The formation lap is underway ahead of today's sprint. As all the cars take their positions on the grid, the final preparations have been made, and all that's left is for the drivers to deliver on track.
All right, so here we are finishing out our formation lap for the Miami sprint race. A little bit of a sunset going on here. We're going to be starting in the shade next to the Alpine. I believe that was a Valtteri Bottas. And behind the Ferrari, 2 Red Bulls having a lockout here for the sprint race. As we have a Mercedes behind us. The two Connor Sports there on the right side. A little bit better improvement from the last race. As we're starting P6 behind Gasly and Bottas. As our 5 red lights are off. Verstappen and Russell off to an okay start. And it's a little bit of an awkward start for us because we get slotted in behind the Ferrari. We can move on the inside. The Red Bull, I believe, Perez. A little bit of a lockup there as we get caught up next to Gasly through the curve. And still sitting back in P5 as we get our foot down and get into the groove. See the Ferrari try to make a move on us there in Sector 1. Had to back off if you saw that in the mirror. And Sector 2, we get in the groove, we get the toe of Pierre Gasly in the Alpine, and everybody's running pretty well. Sprint race running in mediums. I had a feeling we were going to be running in the mediums instead of the softs. And we hit this braking zone pretty good. The brakes a little bit harder or towards the end as we saw Gasly hit the brakes before this double right-hander. And this underpass section, very tricky to get, but we had a good first run there as we hit the back straight. Still sitting in P5, Carlos Sainz just under 7/10 behind us. Valtteri Bottas back in P7, Hamilton, P8, Leclerc, and Norris to round out the end of our top 10. Verstappen, Perez, Russell for top 3. As we're still behind Gasly. A little bit of wheel spin there at the end of our first lap here for a 7-lap sprint. We have a little bit of snap of oversteer again there on that left-hander. The second last lap here. We have Carlos Sainz moving on the inside. And I don't know what it is. I didn't see it during the race. You could see the cars are still ghosting. I don't know if that's an update or a bug for the cars to ghost to avoid contact. But there was plenty of room between myself and Sainz. But yeah, lap 3's the next piece of action. We have trying to make a move on Pierre Gasly in the Alpine. We brake late, try to get as close to him as possible. We can make a move here on the start finish straight, taking as much curb as we can without losing any time. And we make that dive to the inside for P4. Pierre Gasly now back in P5. And Carlos Sainz back there at P6, hanging back as we're over halfway done with our sprint race. Later on here, Sector 2 of lap 4, Pierre Gasly having DRS, trying to make a move. And Carlos Sainz is right in the back of his gearbox. So we're 3 down. A 3-man tow here coming into the chicane. Pretty much coming into that double right-hander. A little bit of contact from Gasly. And hold the inside line. Managed to hold P4 as of right now coming into the underpass section. Is yeah, Carlos Sainz is making the move on Pierre Gasly. So Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari now up in P5. His teammate Leclerc back in P9. So we're coming down the straight, but Sainz has DRS. You could see that time frame. He was about a half second back just a second ago, and now he's trying to make a move on the inside. We give him that position. We wait to make a move on him later. And yeah, so on these medium tires, not really feeling it, as we put a lot of power down and we saw that slip.
All right, race over. Take care of the car on the way in.
So let's review the drivers' standings. Max Verstappen should be pleased with his performance, making gains at the top of the table. Well, that wraps up the sprint. All that remains is the main event. We'll be live and uninterrupted for the Grand Prix tomorrow, so make sure you join us then.
All right, so P5 finish for the sprint race. It's 4 points for us, as Charles Leclerc, Pierre Gasly, and still the Red Bull, still 1-2 Red Bull. George Russell on the podium for the sprint race. As I'm feeling pretty good about this. The Alpines dropping down a little bit, and the Saubers, I don't know what happened with the Saubers. They were running pretty well. Yuki Tsunoda dropping back down to P15, dropping like 1 or 2 positions. And Lando Norris still back there in P10. So, with the end of our first sprint race of the season, we're going to go straight to the main event.
Welcome to the Miami International Autodrome, home of the Miami Grand Prix. This exciting track circumnavigates the Hard Rock Stadium, home to the National Football League outfit, the Miami Dolphins. A lap of the Miami Grand Prix features 3.36 miles of track around the Hard Rock Stadium, and 19 corners make up the Miami International Autodrome, which will challenge the drivers in a tight wheel-to-wheel race. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Sergio Perez will lead us away from pole position, just ahead of George Russell, who starts this event from P2. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Sainz, Johnson, Hamilton, Leclerc, Gasly, Bottas, Joe, Verstappen, Oscar Piastri, Ocon, Jackson, Tsunoda, Magnussen, Hulkenberg, Mick Schumacher, Mayer, Sargent, and Lando Norris starts from the back of the grid. Now it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track. Anthony Davidson is here once again for today's Grand Prix. Let's talk about Johnson. What do you make of their performance so far this season?
Well, the atmosphere within that team seems very positive at the moment. Everyone seems like they're in great spirits and having a lot of fun doing what they do, and that's definitely contributed to the performances we've seen.
And yeah, kind of a script thing to say, but we are doing pretty good. And some penalties. I'm not sure if I saw Max with a penalty there, but double, medium, and hard, and then hards to mediums. We're gonna go with the default strategy from hards to mediums and see how we can go. But yeah, so not much to say, but Lando Norris with the penalty dropping back in the grid, and then Max Verstappen, I could have swore he finished in front of us. They had a double podium, so 10 place grid penalty is what it looked like. I was looking at some other stuff on my other monitor when they were going through the grid order. But he'll probably make his way up the pack and probably get driver of the day, but we'll have to wait and see as we get into the race.
Here we go then, the formation lap gets underway and the excitement here is building as we near ever closer to the start of the race. Which team will come out on top? Who's got their strategies right for today's race? Well, we'll soon find out. As the cars come back towards the grid to line up for the start of the race, each driver will be wanting to get the best start they possibly can. And they'll be hoping to finish today's race on the podium, failing that, within the points.
All right, so we are well within the points as of right now with our starting position on these hard tires. We'll be planning on going long on these hard tires, even though they want us to go on lap 9, I believe it was. And yeah, the Red Bull of Sergio Perez, the Mercedes, Ferrari, and I believe the other Mercedes behind me, and then another Ferrari. As you can see Lando Norris there in the back pack with the penalty. And Max Verstappen there in P10. Our 5 red lights are off before the main event. Perez, Russell, Sainz, myself. And it was a lot better start compared to the sprint race as we moved to the outside, slotting into P3. Let's see Hamilton side by side with Carlos Sainz, Leclerc and Verstappen side by side behind. We're coming to the little sector 1 straight here before that long left-hander. As we slot in a lot better. Minimal contact as we go wide here a little bit. Sainz able to catch up and easily able to try to close in on our toe for this sector 2, this long stretch of sector 2. Kind of reminds me of Jeddah. You can see Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari, in the mirrors, trying to make an opening. Moves on the inside. A little bit of a lockup from Russell ahead of us. We managed to hold our position for now against Carlos Sainz. Now Leclerc ahead of Hamilton. So the Ferraris are up in P4, P5. Red Bull, Mercedes, Aston Martin, Ferrari for our top 5 as we come along the back straight. And we end up losing the back end a little bit and having contact with the front right tire. So we have some wear. We have some extra wear on the front tire on lap 1 of the race. So that's not really going to help our case here. Carlos Sainz on the inside. We brake late, holding that position. And yeah, so a pretty mostly clean lap here. Lap 1 for the main race. And we have to nurse that front right tire as we move on to the back straight for lap 2. Carlos Sainz in our toe, able to make another move. Try to make another move for the inside. As you can see, the time frame that he gets the momentum without DRS. Again, we brake late to try to defend our spot. We're side by side going through. We give way to Carlos Sainz. He's now sitting currently P3. And it's only lap 2, so we're sitting pretty good for fights. And I didn't really want to fight that, but with these hard tires, we fought that inside corner, as you can see. Sainz and Leclerc still P4, P5. As we start lap 3, and you can see Verstappen already up into P7. 2 laps later, we have on board with, I believe, Joe Granu and the Sauber on the soft tires. This is going to be our first retirement of the race here in Sector 1, starting Sector 2. Having an engine failure. No safety car, no virtual safety car. He's plenty off the track. So we're moving on to lap 7. Leclerc able to make a move. You can see that the other Ferrari of Carlos Sainz made a pit stop. He's back there in P19 as Verstappen's now up into P5. So it's Perez, Russell, myself, Leclerc, Verstappen, Piastri, Hamilton, Bottas, and Esteban Ocon and Gasly for our top 10. As Leclerc has DRS on us, he's just over 1/10 behind us, moving on to lap 9. Now Leclerc finally able to make another move. We've been having a competition with him pretty much the old time. Leclerc and myself fighting for a P3, and then Verstappen basically sitting back and waiting for a moment to pounce as we go a little wide. We're side by side for a moment with Verstappen, but Leclerc going into the pits for an early stop, well, normal stop, as Sainz went in earlier. And the Red Bull Max Verstappen goes in behind him, but unfortunately, as we had the title of the race, you can see the Ferrari going in, Red Bull goes in. Max is sitting here, his pit crew, nowhere to be seen. You can see other people coming in for their pit stops. The pit crew is not coming out. The pit crew is not ready. And I've never seen this before, so I don't know if it's a glitch or if it's because I set this weekend to a sprint race weekend, but he's going to be coming out of the pits towards the end of the grid, and he's going to be coming back in the next lap. Now, Sergio Perez on lap 10 after Verstappen went out of the pits, he's coming in. And for Sergio Perez for the lead, same situation, he comes in, his pit crew's there, they're sitting there watching the screens. I don't know what was going on with this. I don't know if it's going to happen for the remainder of the season. But lap 11 now, Perez coming in, and Max Verstappen coming in as well. And they're going to be stuck there for a majority of the race. The game's going to eventually let them go through. They're going to try to come back through the next lap and try to pit stop for a set of tires. So myself coming in on lap 11, you see Perez, Verstappen, Zhou there at the bottom three. And as we're coming in to swap over to the medium tires, Perez and Verstappen are still there. We're coming around this last corner, and there they are. They're still sitting there. They're ghosting with each other, and they are stuck. So they're practically out of this race. And Max Verstappen, I believe, who is the current leader of the championship, loses, depending on how we finish the race, loses a big gap of points. Carlos Sainz, Charles Leclerc are second and third. George Russell be about 3.5 seconds or more between myself and the Ferraris, as we're on the lap 12 of 20. Well, there's not much left of this race to go. We're on board with Leclerc. You can, if you remember, Leclerc took a pit earlier, and we're actually having a three-man battle for the front. You can see George Russell there, a little bit of lockup from Carlos Sainz. I don't know if there was damage, but Sainz going into the pits, giving us a free P3, as we're about 10 seconds back. There we are as he's coming to the pits. Valtteri Bottas about 3 seconds, just over 3 seconds behind us. Now we're on board with Valtteri Bottas on the final lap, the back straight. He managed to catch up with us on a better set of mediums as he pit later, so we had a fresher set of mediums. And we're going to be able to hold on to that position through the last few corners and finish on the podium for P3 in our home race in Miami.
Yes, and that's a podium. Excellent drive. The whole team have worked especially hard this weekend, and that, my friend, is a fantastic reward. Well done.
So Mercedes have won it, and what a great race it was. Tell me, Ant, how do you think they were able to deliver such an incredible result today?
I think a large part of the result comes down to temperament. They were able to keep their heads when everyone around them was losing theirs, and that's allowed them to get the best out of the car, to maximise the strategy, and to stay out of trouble.
Well, Mercedes are on top form once again after an excellent race weekend. It's great to see them up on that podium once again. So let's review the updated driver standings. This result then narrows the gap between our championship leader and the rest of the standings. Well, after an incredible day of racing, who was your driver of the day, Ant?
But there's no question in my mind, it has to go to George Russell. What a performance. He's got every right to be proud of what he accomplished out there today.
Let's move on to the constructors. Mercedes moved to the top of the table. Well, that was certainly an exciting weekend of Formula One. Be sure to join us for more exciting Formula One action very soon.
All right, so a very eventful race as Red Bull. Don't know what was going on with Red Bull. Joe Granu having an early DNF with an engine failure, but Sergio Perez and Max Verstappen, I don't know what happened with them, but they got stuck in the pits. And I noticed about halfway through when Max went in for his pit stop that, yeah, he got stuck in the pits on his first pit stop on lap 9. And the overcut that we did with our tires for the hards worked in our favor, even though Carlos Sainz making an early pit stop. I don't know if he had some issues or something happened with like contact or something like that, but him coming in for an early pit stop really yeah, medium hard, and then we went hard to medium. And Valtteri Bottas was closing in their last lap, second to last lap. He put up a great fight to try to take that podium from us. But yeah, I'm still Max Verstappen getting stuck in the pits, and if I'm correct, yeah, they got stuck in the pits, and I don't know if what wasn't registering, because I looked there in the race director and the cameras where Max Verstappen was waiting for his pit crew, and his pit crew were watching the screens. So I don't know what happened there. I don't know if it's because the Miami's not normally set for a sprint weekend, but hopefully we won't have that issue later on in the season, as we got 19 points for the weekend. And our teammate Mick Schumacher also scoring 2 points from the race. And then I believe that is Aiden Jackson in the Connor Sport scoring his first points of the season. So we're going to go back to the standings and take a look. Mick Schumacher bumping up to P14. And then Callie Mayer, Logan Sargent, Joe Granu, Nico Hulkenberg are the only ones who have yet to score any points. Aiden Jackson, first debut points here in Miami. As we're rounding out the end of the video, hopefully you guys enjoyed, and we're feeling really good about this weekend and so far in the season. So we will see you guys in the next episode.